everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of Comprehensive D&D 5e Guides. It's been a little while since I've done this, and I think, if I remember correctly, I think most of my 5e guides have been based on unearthed arcana stuff. So today, we're going to go back to something that was published in a book, and that's going to be we're going to do the roguish archetypes in the Sword Coast Adventures Guide. Now, I covered the rogue a while ago, and I never did any other subclasses because I had other things I wanted to do. So just as a refresher, again, in 5e, you want to have kind of the class defining abilities show up between the first and second levels of the class. And the rogue has two kind of main defining features, which are sneak attack is their big one, and the one that most people think of when they think of rogues is backstabbing or sneak attack. Their second one is their cunning action, which basically gives them the ability to use their bonus action for a lot of different things. They can hide using their bonus action. They can dash, making them more mobile. And those are the two big ones. There's other ones as well. And any subclass needs to kind of fit into one of those two things. Now, they do have a third one, which, real quick, I have to check where this comes from. Yeah, and that's a first level ability. We also talked about Thieves' Cant, which is cool, and it's a rogue only thing, but doesn't really get used. And then the other kind of defining feature of the rogue is expertise, which the bard does get a version of that, but they get it at a higher level. Again, rogues get it right at level 1. So it's a pretty big part. The reason I bring that up is there's two archetypes in the Sword Coast Adventures Guide for rogues. And one of them is going to be a lot of out of combat skills and kind of fitting into expanding that expertise option of rogues being very, very good at certain things. And the other one is going to be much more towards sneak attack combat orientation. So let's go into it. The first archetype in the SCAG is what we call it, because Sword Coast Adventures Guide is just too many words, is the Mastermind. The Mastermind kind of similar to like the thief archetype that they had in the PHB, is very much along the spy route, where a thief is a little more action oriented, going in, stealing things, the second story work, allowing them to climb things like that. The Mastermind is much more about control, both in combat and outside of combat. You'll notice a lot of the abilities give them the specific ability to learn things, use that knowledge in a way that's advantageous to them specifically or their party, and to manipulate and control people through conversation and things like that. The first thing is when you choose the archetype at third level, you get Master of Intrigue, which gives you a bunch of proficiencies. The Disguise Kit, the Forgery Kit, and one gaming set of your choice, and you learned two more languages, which again, a lot of people undervalue knowing a lot of languages in D&D. It can be useful for a lot of things. I mean, being able to spy on people that think they can talk without you knowing, and being able to carry on conversations with other members of your party, literally right in front of someone that they can't understand. It's really useful. The other aspect of that is if you can hear a creature speak for at least 1 minute, you can unerringly mimic the speech patterns and accent of that creature, making it easier for you to appear as if you're from another place. I actually built a bard, actually, and now reading the Mastermind, think he would work better as a Mastermind rogue. But the idea behind it was to make them a super spy. I took the charlatan background because it gave the ability to forge documents perfectly. And I think I was working on getting the actor feat to just really give them the ability to walk into a situation and choose to be whoever they wanted. A real kind of Michael Weston from Burn Notice type character. And that's literally what the Mastermind is. If you like the idea of a spy that can walk into a situation and lie their pants off in a very convincing way, the Mastermind is your guy. They can infiltrate the bad guys. They can speak their language. They can sound like they're from other countries. They can play the, country bumpkin or the noble elite very effectively, and use that to go places they normally couldn't, even with stealth abilities. There are places that you can't sneak into, where going in as a trusted friend is much more useful. The second thing they get at third level is Master of Tactics, which lets you use the help action as a bonus action, and lets you use the help action from up to 30 feet away. Now, I have mentioned the help action before because it is massively useful and massively undervalued. Simply because normally the help action uses your action, and all it does is it gives a specific ally, or is it any person? Anyway, it gives the next person attacking a certain target advantage on their next attack roll, which when you have like fighters with 3 or 4 attacks, that can seem like kind of a waste because it's only one attack, whereas something like Fairy Fire gives it on all their attacks, or stunning them will have this same effect. However, going from an action to a bonus action changes things a lot. If you have 2 rogues on the same team, the ability to give the next rogue a bonus advantage means they get their sneak attack whether or not you're there. the fact that you can do it from up to 30 feet away means you can pick and choose. If you've got a caster that's going to cast, disintegrate on someone trying to get rid of a really tough guy, use the help action, give them advantage on the attack, so they're not going to miss and might even crit on it. It's I cannot tell you how useful the help action can be. Now, because it uses the bonus action, this is a class that you will be having to choose what you want to use your bonus action on. Do you want to hide? Do you want to move a lot? Do you want to help with it? Like, this is a very good class for giving you a lot of options and making it so that none of them are vastly superior to any other. Hide can be just as effective as help. Dash can be just as effective as hide. It's very good design on that part. But this whole subclass is going to have a lot of ideas centered around the idea of helping your party as opposed to being the sole damage dealer that a lot of other rogue subclasses like the assassin kind of focus on. At 9th level, you get Insightful Manipulator. And this is basically just knowledge. You have to spend a minute outside of combat watching a creature, and you can ask the DM how they compare to you on certain things. Their intelligence score, wisdom score, charisma score, or class levels. And the DM also have the option of giving you other information you notice. This is another thing that is really good, more for the group than it is for the rogue. Though it can be very useful to the rogue as well. If you can find out, let's say you have a cleric that likes to use charm spells and things like that, or a wizard that likes to use charm spells. A lot of those are wisdom based. So finding out what their wisdom score is like before the battle begins can be very, very useful. The same is true if you've got a cleric that likes to use banishment. That's a charisma spell. On the same note, you can also use their wisdom score to figure out how hard they're going to be to lie to. Deception is always contested by wisdom insight. So if they have a low wisdom score and you want to send your, or if you want to send your rogue in to distract the group for an ambush, knowing that their wisdom score is exceptionally high might change how you do things. It might have you use some magical inspiration to give you what you need, or maybe just to know that the wisest one needs to die first before you go in. So again, useful outside of combat for both combat and non-combat interactions. Misdirection is the 13th level of ability. And this is the one that makes the least amount of sense to me. I'm not sure if I have a typo in my book. This one specifically says if you're targeted by an attack while you are within 5 feet of a creature that is granting cover to you, you can use your reaction to have the attack target that creature instead of you, which doesn't make a ton of sense, seeing as creatures in general don't provide cover unless they're an ally. and that's only in very specific circumstances. So all this ability, from what I'm reading of it, is it allows you to have one of your allies take a hit that was meant for you, which can be somewhat useful if you have a paladin next to you with like an armor class of 21, and you're sitting at like 16, and someone shoots an arrow over the paladin to try and hit you. Yeah, let the paladin take it. They have more hit points and a lot more armor class. Other than that, though, it's a weird ability that I think is kind of wasted compared to the rest. And then 17th level, you get Soul of Deceits, which basically means no one can tell if you're lying, even through magical means. Your mind can't be read by telepathy unless you allow it. And you can actually you can present false thoughts by using a charisma deception check, contested by a wisdom insight. So if someone is trying to read your mind, not only can they not do it, but you can make it seem like they read your mind by giving them a lie that might influence them to do the wrong thing. In something really simple, let's say you're playing the shell game. If you're not familiar, it's a very common street con where you hide a pea or something else very small under a shell, and you have 3, and you switch them around, and then the person has to guess where the pea is. And when it's actually done on the street, it actually uses sleight of hand to remove the pea from the game, so they can never win. However, if someone was someone's trying to read your mind to figure out where the pea actually is, you could give them a false thought that, oh, I hid it under my right hand, even though everyone saw it go under the left hand cup, and make them choose the wrong shell. For something simple. For more things, like if your party got captured and they're trying to get invasion plans or something from you, the ability to present false information to an enemy is very useful. Now, the other thing that's cool is, additionally, no matter what you say, magic that would determine if you are telling the truth indicates you are being truthful if you so choose, and you can't be compelled to tell the truth by magic. Anytime someone does zone of truth, you can lie and the caster will think you're telling the truth. Anytime somebody uses anything to find out if you are lying, you can lie. Again, massively useful, especially since a lot of people put a huge emphasis on magic to find out if people are lying, or to get information that they can't. This is a really cool trait to give to a bad guy. Make a bad guy a mastermind, and once they hit 17th level, have the party interrogate them, get entirely the wrong information, and get led into an ambush. The party goes, that doesn't make sense. We know that was true. He couldn't have lied. You can say, well, apparently your magic didn't work the way you thought it should. So really cool for both a villain perspective, and again, as a player, you can be a super spy with the Mastermind. The Swashbuckler, completely different, very combat focused, really cool. I really enjoy this Swashbuckler. I can't remember if I mentioned it in the Rogue guide I did. But one of the downfalls of playing a rogue is because that cunning action is needed for you need your bonus action for cunning action. You can't dual wield really effectively as a rogue. You can, but in order to use your offhand attack, you can't use your cunning action, which severely limits your ability to play the rogue. Swashbuckler takes care of that and actually gives you an incentive to do dual wield. So at third level, when you choose this, you get fancy footwork. Which basically, anytime you make an attack against someone during your turn, they can't make opportunity attacks against you, whether you hit or miss. So this Swashbuckler, right from level 3, is built around the idea of hyper mobility and surgical strikes. Run in, attack someone, run back away. So they have to burn movement, get opportunity attacks, whatever, to try and hurt you again. Which is really cool, and it also gets rid of one of the uses of cunning action, which is disengage. Normally you can use your cunning action to disengage, but that means you have to use your bonus action. With this, don't need the bonus action for it anymore. Just run away. So already giving you kind of an incentive to use the bonus action for a weapon attack. The other thing you get at third level is Rakish Audacity. It allows you to add your charisma modifier to your initiative roll, meaning the Swashbuckler, more than anybody, is going to have a much better chance of going first, especially if they have a high charisma. So this is one of the few classes where you can have a dex charisma build. You don't really see that very often, and it makes for a very interesting character. The 9th level of ability. The other thing with Rakish Audacity, you no longer need advantage on your attack roll to use sneak attack if no creature other than your target is within 5 feet of you. So that means if you normally, to get sneak attack, you need advantage or an ally next to them in addition to other things. But those are the two. With this, you don't. You can have, as long as you are alone with them, or at least the other bad guys are not within 5 feet of you, with that ability to avoid opportunity attacks by making a swipe. That means you can get into the perfect position, sneak attack them, do a ton of damage, and then get the hell away. So very useful. Again, leans very heavily into the ability to dual wield as a rogue. Again, 9th is Panache. And it has different effects on creatures depending on if if they're hostile to you or not. You can use an action to make a persuasion against a check against their insight, and if they're hostile, they have the disadvantage on any attacks they make on creatures other than you, and can't take opportunity attacks against anyone other than you until either one of your allies hits them or a minute passes. Or if you guys get more than 60 feet apart. this can have a lot of tactical advantage. You basically can, up to 60 feet away, you can use this ability on, let's say they had a sentinel that was guarding their caster, which is not an uncommon thing. So the sentinel's sitting there waiting for you guys to get close. You use this, your allies can just go straight past into the caster and not get that sentinel opportunity attack. And if he does try to attack any of your friends and do his job, he has disadvantage on all his attacks. And all it costs is a single action. So super useful in combat. Out of combat, if the creature isn't hostile to you, it's charmed by you for a minute, and it treats you as, what is it? A friendly acquaintance. The one difference with this compared to most spells that do this same thing is they know magic has been used against them, or they become hostile after using it. This actually gives you a really good way to kind of charm people and get information or get deals with them without having to worry about the bad effects of all the magic, where they get pissed at you or they realize that you've just used magic against them. There isn't really that much of a downside to a Swashbuckler's panache compared to like the Friends spell. So again, incredibly useful. 13th level, you get Elegant Maneuver, which lets you use your bonus action on your turn to gain advantage on your next acrobatics or athletics check you make during the same turn. There's a lot of uses for this. Probably one of the most useful is you can burn your bonus action to give you advantage on an acrobatics or athletics check, which is what you use when you have to break out of a grapple. So a lot of creatures at higher levels have the ability to attack you and grapple as part of the attack. And they can get really bad. I believe Utyogs have that. And generally it takes like a strength save to get out of it, or an athletics check or something like that. And with this, it will give you, it won't help on a strength save, but a strength athletics check or an acrobatics check to break a regular grapple will work and be, again, really useful. Also, if you have to climb a wall in combat, you have to move something in combat or out of combat, again, you don't have to use this in combat. It just gives you a free advantage when you want it on the checks. Athletics you probably won't be making too often, but acrobatics checks are a rogue's bread and butter. And being able to give yourself an advantage on that whenever you want, you just become even more useful. And since you can have expertise in acrobatics, you can be rolling, 35s on your acrobatics check once you get to high enough levels. 17th level, you get Master Duelist. But basically, if you miss with an attack roll, you can roll it again with advantage. You can only do it once per short or long rest, but that's still a big deal. You got a clutch guy that just needs to go down this turn, and you've got your sneak attack ready, but you just can't seem to hit him. Give yourself advantage. And again, if you're dual wielding, that basically means you get 2 tries and then a third with advantage against any opponent. and you do get it back after a short rest, so it's not something you need to be nearly as stingy about as some other abilities. I would like to see that one modified to have multiple uses per short or long rest. Probably if it got multiple uses, I would tie it to maybe your charisma, seen as that's a big part of the swashbuckler, and then make it per long rest. You can do it equal number of times to your charisma score. Resets on a long rest, I think, would be more useful, but it's still really good. And this 17th level ability, even as written, it's really useful, especially when you combine it with things like sneak attack and other really useful things as well. That's just built into the rogue's talent pool. So yeah, put that down. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Like I said, any of my regular shows like Play Your Faves or comprehensive D&D 5e guides, I'm not going to count those as my daily Decembers. These are just extra videos for you guys. So anyway, let me know in the comments down below if there is a class or an archetype I haven't covered that you want me to in these guides, or if you have other kind of mechanical aspect ideas you would like me to go over in this show, like underrated abilities like the help action or things like that. Just let me know in the comments. Otherwise, that's all for me today, and I'll see you guys next time. All right? Bye-bye.